Welcome to the third episode of the Concerning Learning video podcast. Thank you for subscribing, for continuing to tune in, as well as submitting your questions so that we can continue to have rich conversations. I can continue to add value and solve your real-world talent development problems. Now it's time for Deidre, Please Rescue My Training. Thanks again for answering the call to submit questions, challenges, so that we can discuss them on the show. I have received quite a few, and I just wanted to address two that I received today. So the first question that I received from Lois Bracy Barnes, Senior Training Specialist. Her question was, how do I define levels of knowledge in a training matrix that I am trying to create? So this question really got me thinking and allowed me to really reflect on, in the real world, what happens when we're asked to create training matrices, create programs. And so I really did some reflection and thought about, how would I answer this question? So first of all, I think about, what do the learners need? What do they do? You really have to dig deep and get to know the learners. And that's really what I call it, getting to know them. Finding out, what do they do? Looking at position descriptions, doing task analyses, performance analysis. Find out exactly those specific duties and tasks and activities that they do. What are they responsible for? The second thing I would do is look at, how are they expected to perform those duties? You have to really examine the performance standards. What is required of them? Yes, they're expected to do this. Yes, they're expected to do that. But at what level? Do you expect that from all of your program managers? In this particular instance, it was IT program managers. At what level? Is it a level, do you expect the same performance standards of those who are at a higher level versus those who are at a more of a novice level? And then I would move to actually providing a skill matrix, is what you actually asked for, Lois. And after you have what they do, how they do it, then you really put levels to that. So I like to go back to an actual, I call it a skill key that I use, that OPM provided, Office of Personnel Management. And it's really basic, it's very easy to understand, and it's just 5 levels. So the first level is is an awareness. You need to know that this even exists, that these skills exist. Then there's a basic knowledge. And that's where you have to have some knowledge, some level of expertise. Then it goes up higher. It goes to more intermediate, then advanced, then you're at the expert level. So as you are identifying those duties and you're thinking about how they're expected to perform them, then you can assess at what level you need to create your matrix. So the second question that I received, and it was, how do I convince management that training is important? Now this one really tugged at me, because I will say that I have been in this situation in almost every organization that I have worked in. And it comes from being able to show how training adds value. How do your learning solutions add value? So one technique that I use quite frequently, and it actually has been very successful, is what I call remedy selling. And with remedy selling, there's different ways that you can do it, depending on your organizational culture. So you start with, if we don't do this, then this will happen. And then you provide solutions to prevent that from happening. You can also do it in reverse, based on your organizational culture. Some cultures are more problem sensitive, so they respond better when you present them a problem and then give them the solution. Whereas other organizations are more solution based and will be turned off if you just present a problem without starting with the solution. So here's how that would look in the real world. If you have an organization, and I'll use the example of your training department. How do you show the importance of keeping them skilled and providing those knowledge and making sure they have those knowledge and skills? So the example is, if we don't continuously improve and prepare and give our training department the knowledge and skills that they need, then at some point our function will be deemed as unnecessary, it'll be downsized, and ultimately eliminated. So what we need to do is continually develop those knowledge and skills within our department so that we can meet the needs of the organization, show how we're adding value, and continuously move the organization forward towards its mission. And so that's just one way to show to demonstrate the remedy selling and how you can show management that training is important and not just a nice to have event. Welcome to the Best Learning Strategies. Today's guest is Cheryl Abram, and I am super excited about today's conversation. It's been a while since we've connected, so I am looking forward to this conversation. And I usually don't read bios, I kind of summarize, but today, because I love the way that this is written, I want to read a portion of her bio for you, just so you can get to know her a little bit before we start talking. Cheryl Abram is an organization development specialist and a learning, development, and evaluation thought leader with over 10 years of experience cultivating an innovative, world-shattering new approach to training program evaluation and learning program design. With truth-telling as the foundation, Cheryl's philosophy acknowledges the reality of complexity and personal accountability while promoting principles of autonomy, authenticity, and freedom in learning. All those things that I love. Autonomy, authenticity, and freedom in learning. Without further ado, Cheryl, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Deidre, for having me here.
Yes.
I'm very, very excited.
Good. So how we usually do it is I have some questions, but our conversation can go wherever we take it. Mm-hmm. Okay? Yeah. So I like to talk about training just in case you haven't noticed. So the first question, how would you describe your unique organizational learning strategy?
Yes. So the entire idea about the work that I do when it comes to helping an organization become organized around learning, which is very different. Normally we say, organized around the business lines or all that stuff, and that's still true. However, none of that exists without learning, right? So I really feel like the way that we approach learning now is as a support to the main work that's going on, when that is absolutely not true, Yes. So, and a lot of times we say that learning needs a seat at the table. Well, there is no table without learning. Okay.
Ooh, I love it.
Exactly.
Ooh, I love it.
There is no table.
Okay.
Right?
So tell me more about that.
So the strategy is really about connecting learning so much that it's baked into, it's absolutely baked into the organization. So everything that you do, our training needs assessments, the things that we do now, there's no question of, well, will you use this when you get back to the job? Well, it is the job.
Yes.
So there is no transfer, you know what I mean? Because
exactly.
As you're learning, you're working.
Yes.
And when you get back to work, you're implementing and practicing and, making mistakes and learning more. And, so it's really, it's a whole different way to look at learning is where the strategy begins.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why we connect so well.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm careful about the people that I select because we do have a connection. It's not just because we have the same thought processes, because I think even on LinkedIn we had a conversation when I put something about having a seat at the table, and I saw it was kind of like, well, why do we always have to ask for a seat at the table?
Right.
And so I didn't think that, Cheryl, we're off on that, but I knew it was something else behind it. And so I'm really glad that you are able to kind of explain it, because we're definitely on the same page. All learning should be about, it's what you do. It's not something extra, it's what you do.
It is.
So why wouldn't we be at the table, and everything we do, we should be learning and continuously improving?
Exactly. If you want to adapt and grow and mature and,
Exactly.
Exactly right.
Exactly.
Learning can't be something you do on the side,
Oh my gosh, that is exactly why this particular episode, our conversation, is so important, because the emphasis is on those must-have skills for talent development staff to be able to really add value, to really connect and make the organization better.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So, I've been stalking your website.
Yes.
And you have some quotes, and there were two that really piqued my curiosity. If you can just explain each and how do they relate to your perspective on learning strategy. So the first one is, learning is the environment in which we live and work, not just something we do.
Right.
I love that. Can you just, I know we kind of touched upon it, but if there's something else you want to add to it, please.
Yeah. So it's, very simply, like the environment that we're in now, we're able to talk and communicate, we're sitting in chairs and there's a table in front, so the environment enables us to do the things that we do, right? And learning is the same way. The learning environment that you're in within your organization, within your home, at the grocery store, it enables you to work and produce and be profitable, right? So that's exactly what it is. So, and it's our job to take care of our learning environment, the same way we do with the earth. You want to be able to breathe well, because if you can't, you're not going to be able to do much. You need clean water. You need to be, so you have to take care of your environment, in the same way we take care of our natural environment.
I love that. I think that's what I was like, okay, learning, I always talk about the journey, but there's an environment that when you're on the journey is a part of that journey.
Right. It enables the journey.
Yeah.
It makes it easier or harder.
Yes. And those organizations that are high performing have a learning culture.
Yes.
So it is a part of everyday work. And that's why they thrive.
Absolutely.
I love it. So this second one.
Okay.
Training can be delegated. Learning cannot. Please elaborate on that.
Yes. So learning is very personal. I've been to, I can't even tell you how many training courses, right? And, we get the normal evaluation, how do things go? How is the instructor, the materials, all good questions, right? But at the same time, the instructor, the materials, they're not responsible for my learning. They are responsible for what they say, how they present the information, but when it comes to actually learning the material and absorbing it and associating it with something I already know, and seeing how I can apply it in this context and how can I apply it in that context, that is absolutely 100% my responsibility, because with responsibility comes accountability. I'm accountable for what I learn, and where I'm accountable, that's the place where I can make changes. Okay, so if I'm getting results that I don't like, then if I want to change those, I need to change what I see. I need to change what I'm learning, how I interpret things, but so it's all very, very personal, so I can't delegate that to an instructor.
Right.
I can't delegate that to my authority figures, That's all my responsibility, and I'm accountable for that.
Wow. So where do you think we've kind of gotten off track with that, because I hear a lot of people talk about, well, there's no money for training. And, you know, my philosophy has always been, well, you can learn with no money. Absolutely. And I designed training. Most of my career, I didn't have a budget. And people learned. A lot of people learned. And I would say thousands of people learned.
Right.
But how do we get people to shift their mindsets around learning, which is something that this learning revolution is all about?
Right.
How do we get them to take responsibility and hold themselves accountable for that learning? Do you have any strategies?
Thank you so much for saying
Yes,
that you don't need money.
Yes. Oh my God. I am so tired of that. And I mean, it inspired a whole program at one of my former organizations, because I just was like, no.
Yes.
No, you really can learn with no money. I mean, especially with the internet.
I know. Seriously.
Google is my friend. Yes, you have to, you know, check your sources, but then that leads me to a different Google search, because then I have to prove what it is. And so let me get a book. There's book. You can, I mean, if you Google images, like, you can find a lot of stuff with no money. Just that alone. Talking to people. Yeah. You know, we can go on and on, and I'm not even going to. So how do you get, you know, do you have any strategies, anything I can add to my tool belt, or our listeners or viewers, on how do you kind of get them to change and take more responsibility for their learning?
Right. I think the main, a primary place to start is to really look at the way we value learning right now, especially in an organization. A lot of times it's about, I'm learning this thing, or I'm going to training so that I can just know how to do this thing, or so I can get a promotion, or, you know, so it's focused, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, learning is so much broader than that. Like, it's almost like food, right? So food, we eat food for nutrition, to grow, and to survive. Right. Okay. Same with learning. Learning is for nutrition, it's for growth, and it's for survival. In whatever atmosphere you're in, you know, it's not just so I can get a promotion, or so I can get another certification, or so I can, you know what I mean? Exactly. So it's so attached to money, you know, either earning it or whatever the case may be, and or making it, you know, and just the mission of the organization, and we don't see any. You know, any further from that. So it has to almost be a grassroots movement to see that as an individual, you are learning for your own nutrition, growth, and survival, you know, and also for whatever group you're in, whatever the system is. It's an organizational system, a family system, whatever the case may be, right? But learning it's nurturing, you know, you absolutely want to do this. So when we start to see it for what it is in a much broader way, you know, and like the learning I do in the workplace carries over to my home in the same way. The stuff I learn at home, you know, there's no separation between those things. So we definitely need to begin to look broader and to value learning more.
Absolutely. You know? Part of my blended learning approach is dual purpose learning. And you are learning it not just for promotion or for money, but how can I also apply this outside? For example, when I was an assistant basketball coach, more like I'll call myself the team counselor. Okay. My practice plans were based on the ADDIE model, instructional design. And I literally wrote a blog about how I designed the practice plan based off of ADDIE.
Right. That's great.
And I'm like, I live my profession because it's how I think. And so I'm always looking for ways on how can I improve it so that I can get better and better. Just because I'm an expert at something, then you really have to stay on top of your game, because there's always someone who's waiting to knock you off. So you better stay sharp. And I always say sharpen my tools. And that's how the learning revolution actually started. I just was posting every day, learn something new every day.
And people, when I wouldn't do it, people would ask, well, you really are inspiring me. Don't stop. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, it's something that I kind of take for granted, but it really, people, and once you start that behavior change, it becomes a part of who you are.
Right, exactly. Right. And people are looking for that. So I have a book coming out soon called Longing to Learn.
Ooh.
And I feel like we've forgotten how we really have forgotten. And part of it is because we're like in organizations, you have rules and regulations and you do it this way and you don't do that way. So there's not a lot of decision making that needs to happen, and decisions need to be happening throughout, not just at the so-called executive level.
Yes.
Everybody needs to be able to know how to make a decision because context changes all the time. And sometimes, the world isn't working the way the rule book says it has to, So in those situations.
So what do you do?
Yeah, I need to be able to evaluate and, make decisions.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I love it. That is, I just love having these conversations because it's just real.
Yeah.
It's real life. What we should be doing.
Right.
And sometimes we need reminders.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially those in the talent development world, because we focus so much on helping others improve their skills, but we really need to take time out to develop ourselves. So what critical skills are missing from our talent development departments? What do you think is missing?
I think we really need to hone our abilities to create connections, because it's the connections within the systems that make the systems really work.
Yes.
And we have a tendency to just stay in our corner and only come out when somebody calls us. And, so we got to get out there.
Yep.
And we got to know what's going on, in the business and the organization. And, so our ability to do that, and that's more of a soft, adaptive type, type skill.
Yep.
But I think it's absolutely critical. I mean, I can know everything I need to know, but if I have no connections,
exactly.
who am I helping?
Exactly. No one. You're waiting. I call them order takers.
Yes.
You just, may I take your order, please? And we're so much more powerful when we actually engage and immerse ourselves in the organization, put a finger on the pulse and find out what's going on, and have our ears open to opportunities where we can provide learning solutions that really matter.
Yeah.
And so I definitely would say, in addition to the basics, we definitely need to be more business partners in learning the business versus just focusing on a training event.
Right. Exactly, because learning is the business.
It's the business.
It's the business of the organization.
If you're doing it well.
Yes.
If you're doing it well, you're learning. So I just want to end with, I'd like to give you an opportunity to provide some advice to learning leaders in ways that they can ensure that they have a highly skilled staff.
I think, especially where I used to work, like that entire environment, is that our learning leaders, they're a little timid to me.
Yes.
I feel like, and just like you were saying, like, we are so powerful.
Yes.
The things that we do and the way that we critically contribute to the health and the life of the organization. We have no business, as a learning leader being, can I come, mother, may I, or, that, like, seriously. But at the same time, we really have to, as learning leaders, show what that value is.
Exactly.
It's not just about, yes, we met our standards this year, and what are the next it's so much broader than that, right? So we have to come together as leaders and create a really good governance structure.
Yes.
So that we're out there and we're providing information, where is the knowledge needed?
Yes.
In this industry, where is the knowledge needed, for this kind of work, for these mission critical occupations, where is knowledge appreciating?
Yes.
We didn't really need this 10 years ago, but now, because of the way the world is moving, and which means you have to, as a learning leader, you got to be out there too.
Exactly.
Sharpening your tools.
Yes.
And informing, everyone else. This is where we're heading in the learning community.
Absolutely.
Agency head or organizational head, this is what you need to be paying attention to, in learning, right? So we really need to be louder.
We need to be bold.
Yeah.
We need to be bold. When we're sitting in those meetings and we hear these challenges and it's like, well, actually there is a solution. There is something that we call this.
Right.
And we can actually help you with that. There was nothing more exciting for me when someone brought me in and said, we need training on this. Oh, great. Let's get together. And so as they're going through, I'm asking, well, where's your process? Do you have a process? Well, no, we kind of do it this way. I said, well, what you really need is not necessarily the training. You need to develop a standard operating procedure.
Right.
And I can help you with that. Really? I thought you just did training.
Right.
No, I actually help you with your processes. I can help you identify those competencies and help you identify, that's what we do.
That is exactly what we do.
We need to do, and our leaders need to do that.
Right.
And help develop and cultivate those skills in our staff.
Right. And use the language of the business. Like we're not just providing training, we are mitigating risks.
Yes.
That this will not get done, and the mission will not be accomplished.
Absolutely.
That's why we're there. One of the main reasons why we're there.
Yes.
There's a risk that this is not going to get done. We're there to help.
Absolutely.
Respond to that risk.
Absolutely. All right, you're speaking my language. We can go on and on and on. But I just I want you to speak to our viewers and our listeners and let them know how they can connect with you.
Yeah, well, I'm at CherylAbram.com. That's CherylAbram.com. Or you can email me at Ypifany.com, YPIFANY.com.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to sit and chat with me, and hopefully we can get together soon thereafter, not as long as it has been, so we can continue the conversation because I love this. It stimulates my energy and gets me all revved up and ready to go and really take that learning revolution to higher levels.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Deidre.
Now it's time for Deidre's Learning Nugget. So I've been talking since the first episode about the 3 essentials for extraordinary learning strategies. The first one being, in the first episode, I introduced the actual concept of the extraordinary learning strategy. The second episode, I talked about how to align the business with the learning strategy, or make sure that the learning strategy is aligned to the business. In this particular episode, I want to talk about what it means to really be led by a highly skilled talent development department. And in the next episode, just to give you a sneak preview, we'll talk about the content, having the right content and the right programs in your extraordinary learning strategy. So, this particular topic is very near and dear to my heart. As I've trained hundreds of people how to design, develop, and deliver training, and it's something that I'm really passionate about because as part of the learning revolution, we need to really, really hone in on these skills and develop them. So I've narrowed it down because it can be overwhelming to try to tackle all of the skills at once in the competencies that are associated with talent development. So there are 3 must-have essential skills that are needed for talent development professionals in order to be able to lead that learning strategy, that extraordinary learning strategy. The first one is you need to know how to assess and analyze individual and organizational learning needs. That is super important because you need to know why is this important and make sure that you have the right solution before you go forward in the process. So that first skill is making sure that you can analyze individual and organizational learning needs. The second essential skill is being able to design, develop, and deliver content effectively utilizing a blended learning approach. And this is important because once you've identified that there is a talent development or a training need, you need to make sure that you have the right approach. It needs to not just be an event, but an experience. And that's important. And you learn those skills when you design, develop, and deliver training using a blended learning approach. The third skill is you have to evaluate the implemented solutions. And that is crucial because how do you know that your program or your training is effective and it's doing what it's supposed to do, what you've designed it to do, unless you evaluate it and continuously improve? So those three must-have skills are making sure you can analyze and assess learning needs at the individual and organizational level, making sure your talent development team can design, develop, and deliver extraordinary learning events, experiences with a blended learning approach. And then the third skill is to be able to evaluate the implemented solutions. Now, as a bonus, I just want to give you, if you want to take those skills to a higher level, you definitely need to know how to manage the learning function and perform as a consultant. This is really how you take those skills to the next level and be that true business partner. You have to learn how to look at not just the training solution, because we know training will only solve a gap in knowledge and skills, but you also have to provide value and show how, even though we do this training solution, here are some other areas that you still need to improve in order to have a comprehensive solution. That's it for Deadra's Learning Nugget. Thank you for tuning in, listening, and viewing today's episode of the Concerning Learning video podcast. I also want to thank the subscribers and those who continue to support and submit questions to me to help make this a meaningful experience. If you want to continue to connect with me, submit questions, please visit my website at rescuemytraining.com. You can also connect with me via social media outlets from that same website. Thank you to our guest, Cheryl Abram. You can connect with Cheryl from our website here.